and welcome back to Checkpoint. And today I have gotten my hands on something that I am super excited that I get to drive and decide just how I feel about. A modified 2014 Jeep Grand Cherokee SRT. And right now I'm feeling good because boy does this thing haul ass. And note that it is SRT, not SRT8. SRT, which stands for Street Racing Technology, street and racing technology, big difference, is the symbol used by Dodge and Fiat Chrysler to designate their performance models, just like M for BMW or AMG for Mercedes.
They used to include a number at the end of SRT to designate the cylinder count for the car, so SRT 10 for the Viper or SRT 4 for that crazy neon that they made.
In 2014, that was the first year that they stopped doing that, so this is the Jeep SRT, not the SRT8. But anyway, we're not talking about those cars. Today we are talking about this very badass Jeep. And there are a lot of things to like about this car. Let's start with numbers. Everybody likes numbers. From the factory, this Jeep comes equipped with the Apache 6.4 liter Hemi V8 with fuel saver technology, if you're into that kind of thing. It's going to be the same general 6.4 liter that you find in other performance Dodge cars. In this application is going to make 470 horsepower and 465 foot-pounds of torque. And that is translated through the paddle shiftable 8-speed automatic transmission and put to the floor via Jeep's four-wheel drive system. Now, while for most Jeeps that four-wheel drive system is probably going to be targeted and used more off-road, for this SRT, and I imagine many other SRTs out there, it's mostly putting in that work on the pavement. Very rough Illinois pavement. Oh, and it's worth mentioning, you have a sport and a track mode in a Jeep and launch control, which we will absolutely be testing in just a minute. Now, obviously, four-wheel drive or all-wheel drive has performance advantages, especially when you're talking about launches or grip, but one of the big disadvantages is power loss. That difference between the horsepower you make at the crank and the horsepower outputted by the wheels. A four-wheel drive system, you're going to lose more of that power during the transfer than you would your typical two-wheel drive system, whether front or rear. I have to say, it's a common theme in the automotive world to gripe about automatic transmissions, manuals or die. But this is a pretty decent automatic transmission. The upshifts on this thing are brutal, way faster than my Z. The paddles themselves are pretty small. I have, these full sort of crescent moon style paddles. These are attached to the wheel itself and not the base of the column. So they're sort of, I have small hands, but they're probably 3 fingers wide. They're definitely accessible, but I was a little surprised when I jumped in. Oh, but as is becoming a bit of a trend on this show, this is no ordinary SRT Jeep. There are a few modifications, both visual and performance, the latter of which is going to help make up a little bit for that power loss.
First and foremost, this Jeep is running on E85 fuel thanks to the Advanced Fuel Dynamics ProFlex kit installed,
which to my understanding was a relatively straightforward install. When I chatted with the owner about it, he says if he were to do it again, he could get it done in about a half an hour. All it is a harness that goes in between your fuel injectors that speaks to a computer, and then a sensor that goes up into a T in your new fuel line, which they provide. Even without a tune, the manufacturer is claiming that you will make an additional 28 wheel horsepower and 30-something torque, so not bad for a less than an hour install. Additionally, we have some larger 88mm throttle bodies installed to get a little bit more air into the mix.
And also an AFE SS catback exhaust with no resonators for that clean sound. Now, Now, the car has not been dynoed since all of its modifications.
So we'll use our handy dandy butt dyno here to see how things feel. We're gonna do a 4th gear pull here. Whew. It feels good, I can tell you that. The sensation of power and going fast in an SUV is definitely different than a small car, but it's not necessarily bad. For example, in the Focus RS that I drove in the last video, link right here, your head snapped back. You step on it and you feel a surge of power, but your head's not snapping back. So you think, well, this is sort of subpar. But then you look down at your speedometer and you are doing well above what you would expect from the sensation. It's less bullet through drywall and more cannonball through castle kind of power. The sound is, I mean, it's classic, it's Mopar, it's the same 6.4 liter you would find in any of the equivalent Challengers or Chargers. You're getting that same muscle car sound. And the exhaust does this great job of accentuating that noise from inside the cabin when you get on it. But when you're cruising around at normal speeds, it's hardly intrusive. I mean, we're doing highway speeds now, and there's nothing that I would describe as drone inside the cabin at all. Maybe a little bit. You just get this bark on upshifts. It reminds me a lot of the time that I got to drive a 650 BMW, 2012 or something like that. It's just this brutal next after next, and I'm a big fan. And the eagle-eyed viewer will notice that this Jeep is lowered a little bit. You can thank the Eibach lowering springs installed in this car for that. And it gives the car this great, like really well-rounded stance. It's definitely not slammed, but you do lose, I think, that top wheel gap to give it this really even feel on all sides of the wheel. I think it looks great, and it's not super noticeable, but it definitely gives this better profile, in my opinion. The handling is a little numb in terms of understanding where the wheels are, but the handling is actually surprisingly good. I mean, it's a Jeep, and I expected a lot of body roll and a lot of resistance with all this weight that you're whipping around, but it's not nearly as bad as I expected.
There's also a lot of visual personalization happening with this Jeep, which I love to see, starting with these 2 red accents, one the tooth of the front grille and the other this red pull toe loop.
We have the headlights and the fog lights tinted yellow and smoked rear tail lights, which for me are hit or miss, but I think in this application it's not too aggressive as to be dangerous or confusing to anybody behind you. I have entered construction and I want out. It's my money and I need it now. Now, there is just no denying that the SUV and compact SUV category is taking the world by storm. SUV sales crush car sales, and that trend is only going to continue. I mean, there's a reason that Bentley and Lamborghini and Aston Martin are all coming out with SUVs. They're what people want. And I suppose if they're going to be selling all these SUVs and people are going to be buying all these SUVs, I would much rather there were a performance option available. And in a lot of ways, Jeep was really early on in that wave. Certainly they weren't alone, but they definitely were early. And in terms of accessibility, I mean, it's a lot easier to get into one of these than it is a Range Rover or something similar. And if you are interested in this kind of form factor, this generation SRT Jeep is a great option. I think it looks really clean, much better than the previous generation. It's fast. There's plenty of Mopar aftermarket support because you're swapping a lot of the same pieces. And on the used market, it's not too expensive. And then, of course, I enjoy this car because of, I think, the same reason I enjoy the hot hatchbacks that I review. It's a very practical and livable car. You know, we'd all like to live in this world where you have 7 sets of keys, but a lot of car enthusiasts, you need a car. And this car does everything that you want it to do and that you need it to do. And how could that not make the package even more appealing than maybe something that is so specialized that it becomes unobtainable to you or me? I mean, this is a very practical family car. Right now, there are 2 car seats in the back for the owner's kids. There's a full-sized SUV trunk and roof rack available for your use. There are some impressive practical performance figures. I mean, you can tow up to 7,100 pounds, so if you own a boat or your buddy's Challenger breaks down, you can use your maximum capacity to get them out. And they make launch mode very accessible. The button is right here, and it's got a little drag strip tree right next to the word launch. Oh man, does Dodge understand their demographic? So you go into track, put your foot on the brake, hit launch. To launch, press brake and fully apply throttle. Oh my god, that scared the shit out of me. So it's fast. I think I wasn't applying the brake fully enough. It was full enough to come to a complete stop, but I think they want you to, like, press it to the floor. I don't know if I fully explained that properly. So you switch the car into track mode, you hit launch, a little message comes up that says fully depress the brake with your left foot, and then step on the gas, and then you release the brake and you go flying. And I don't think I was holding the brake hard enough because it just kind of started moving when I hit the gas. And oh my god, does this thing shift. I'm gonna do it again. Okay, fully depressed. Launch. To launch, press brake and fully apply throttle. I can't tell you how fast I was going, but it was fast. So, all in all, I am not usually a huge fan of big cars. I prefer my smaller sports cars, and if I'm going practical, I'll probably choose some sort of sedan or hatchback. But I've always had a soft spot for Jeeps in my heart. The Wranglers are cool for all their unique reasons, but when I was a kid, my dad had this early 90s green regular ass Cherokee. The AC didn't work. The door handles were those old school push button style that I wasn't strong enough to open yet, so he had to help me. But I loved that car, and ever since I have just looked at Jeeps a little bit better than all other SUVs. And this, it's the same sort of feeling, but even better because it is stupid fast. And in a world that is very quickly shifting to SUVs, I'm so glad that these kind exist. Not just performance models from factory, but these personalized ones.
And while I can't say that an SUV has ever been on my top 5 need-to-own cars list, I could very easily see one of these stealing a spot in my future garage. Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for watching the video. If you liked it, hit the like button. If you want to see more, hit the subscribe button. A huge thank you and shout out to Max, the owner of the Jeep. He's at SlowSUV on Instagram. Be sure to give him a follow there if you liked what you saw today, because that's definitely the place where you can see more of his Jeep. Thank you for being patient with me. These videos are tricky to get out super frequently, especially when every weekend seems to get rained out here in Chicago. So thank you for your patience. Thank you again for watching the video, and I'll see you on the next one.